have an interview with Martin Hartridge. Let's go inside and meet him. Good afternoon, Mr. Hartridge. Could you tell us about your company, please?
Right, okay then. So Hartridges soft drinks. We've been in the village of Hambledon since 1882, long time before I was born. And so I'm the fourth generation. And my son, who's coming down from London, who's just started, is the fifth generation. So it's a family-owned business. And we make soft drinks. We used to make them in the village, but because the factory got bigger and bigger and the lorries got bigger and bigger, we had to move our bottling operation. But we have the offices on exactly the same site.
Has it always been in the village?
Look at that. Yes, we have. Believe it or not, my family come from Kent originally, and my great-grandfather, he bought this site in 1882 for £2,000, and it came with the house next door where my brother lives, a factory, 3 public houses, and the land opposite, which is now being built upon. So that was a lot of money in those days. So we've always been here, yes.
Do you live in Hambledon?
Yes, I do. I live about a mile, I live going towards World's End. It's a good name, isn't it, World's End? So I live down the road. I actually I was brought up, I went to Hambledon Village School, but I was brought up next door where my oldest brother lives. So I spent all my life in Hambledon. So yeah, I'm Hambledon, not quite born, because his father wouldn't give him a job because he said he needed to burn off his youthful wildness, whatever the modern terminology is. So he went to London, became a policeman, met my mother, they had some children. So I came back to Hambledon when I was 1. So we've always lived in the area, yes.
What attracted you to this part of the country?
Oh, I think it was because the factory started here because the water. This is we were originally a brewery, so we made beer, yes, and we made soft drinks. Well, in those days, long time ago, there was no mains water. Yeah, you turned your tap on. Well, you couldn't do that in 130 odd years ago. You had to get it from a well. Have you seen the well? Put the bucket in and wind it up. Well, it was that kind of thing. So they had to use well water for their soft drinks and their beer. And Hambledon, it was beautiful water. So it was the right water to use in the beer and soft drinks. So that's why we came to Hambledon.
What changes have you seen in Hambledon over the years?
Well, actually, Hambledon hasn't changed that much compared to, say, Denmead and Waterlooville or Clanfield. But I think the big change has been that if you go back 50, 60 years ago, when I was a wee lad, there were a lot more shops. So everybody used to shop locally. You couldn't go to Waitrose or go and get a McDonald's, or buy a sandwich down the shop. There were just local shops for local people, and going to Waterlooville was a big event. I mean, when I was about your age, to go to Clanfield was, wow, it was exciting, because it was a long way, because cars didn't travel very far, and people didn't have cars, or many cars in those days.
Why do you think people visit Hambledon?
I think because it's a pretty village. It hasn't changed too much. It looks pretty, doesn't it? The high street with the church at the top. So I suppose it's kept its oldie worldy look.
If you were writing a visitor's guide to Hambledon, which attractions or places of interest would you include and why?
Cool. I like the question. I think of interest, it depends what you're coming for. If you're coming to go for a walk, Hambledon's lovely, isn't it? You can park a car in the middle and walk around the church and the vineyard, and it's lovely hills, isn't it? If you're coming to see something, as I said, you've got the church, yes, the vineyard, there's a pub where you can have lunch, and it's in the countryside. So for most people, it's a trip, isn't it, out of the city into the countryside, which is always a treat.
Which part of the village do you think is the most appealing to visitors and why?
Oh, I think it has to be the high street. So if you're outside the People's Market and you look up the high street with with the nice Georgian houses going up, and you see the church in the background, it's very pretty. So I think that's the nicest part.
Which part of the village do you think is the most appealing to residents and why?
Ooh. I think probably it's most appealing if there's not too much traffic going by. Most people want to have a community. Most people want to know their neighbours. So it's nice for you, isn't it, if you know the people next to you or where you live. And I think because Hambledon is quite small in the total numbers living here, that makes everyone knows everybody. So everybody's friendly. So that's most appealing.
If you could choose one place to go or an activity to do in the village, what would it be and why?
Well, I think going to the pub, because it's nice to walk up the road and have a drink in the pub. I would say going to the church is nice because the Reverend Robin Coots is a very good vicar. But I have to say everybody in the church, etc., is very welcoming. So yes, if anything, I suppose it must be Christmas carols in the church.
Is there anything which you dislike about the village?
I don't have any big dislikes. So a bit like school, some bits of it I can think, I don't like so much as other bits, but as a whole, I like it very much.
Has your business or home ever been flooded?
Yes. So when in the year 2000, when we had the factory here, the old offices got flooded. Now, when it comes to my home, because I used to live next door, where my brother lives, our cellar every year used to flood up to a certain height, and we thought nothing of it. So that was only the cellar. And where I live now, I have a cellar that does flood when the cellars come up in Hambledon. So water and Hartridges go together. So I'm either bottling it or living next to it.
How has the recent big pipe work affected you and your business family?
Well, actually, it hasn't affected us that much, apart from getting to work, because we don't make anything here now. We haven't been affected by it. Mind you, had we had the factory here when they did the big pipe, it would have been chaos. So, not too much of a problem with the big pipe.
What 3 adjectives would you use to describe Hartridges soft drinks?
I would think the business is now exciting. I would also think that it has challenges. And I would think that the soft drinks are delicious.
What 3 adjectives would you use to describe the village of Hambledon?
Pretty, interesting, and welcoming.
Do you know any fascinating facts or stories about Hambledon which you are willing to share with our viewers?
Right. When I was your age, yes, and I lived next door, we used to play football in the road outside with all the village boys. And a car used to come along about every 20 minutes and we'd have to stop the football and let the car past. Now, you can barely cross that road outside or any road without cars coming past all the time. So it shows you how even in my lifetime, the increase in traffic.
Are there any secret hideaways within the village?
I don't know of any, but it depends what you're hiding from. I can't think of any, no.
Have you ever been to Hamilton Primary School?
Yes, I actually went there. So I went to Hamilton Primary School when I was a youngster, and on my first day at Hamilton Primary School, my brother took me. So in those days, your mum didn't take you on the first day because it was, thought of nothing special, going to school. So I went there on my first day, and also I went back to Hamilton Primary School when they opened the new extension. When the Lord Lieutenant of Hampshire came out?
Yeah.
That was good, wasn't it? So I was your guest that day, and it was a lovely day. So thank them all for that.
Thank you for agreeing to an interview. It's been great meeting you, and we really appreciate your input.
Thank you very much indeed, and I think you're both very good at your interviews, and I like the questions. Very interesting and stimulating. Well done. Okay.
Mr. Hartridge was so kind. He gave us some bottles of Hartridges' finest soft drinks to sample. They were absolutely delicious. I love their range of flavours. I can't wait to try the rest of them.